Let's read this multiplication and division properties of inequality negative number. So there must be something different when we multiply or divide by a negative number. Let's see what that is. It says when you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by a negative number, the inequality symbol must be reversed. The inequality symbol must be reversed when you multiply by a negative number for the inequality to remain true. So if we multiply on both sides by a negative number, we are going to flip the inequality sign. Take a look at their examples here. And I think I'm going to change my color of marker. It says 7 is greater than 1. Negative 2 times 7 equals negative 14. See what happened there? Negative 2 times 7 equals negative 14. Negative 2 times 1 equals negative 2. So up here, 7 was positive and was greater than 1, which was also positive. After multiplying by a negative 2 on both sides of my inequality, 14 is negative and is now smaller than negative 2, which is also negative, but bigger than negative 14. Remember, just because it looks bigger doesn't mean that it is. The bigger a negative looks, the smaller it is. Look what happened to the sign. When I multiplied by negative 2 on both sides, I had to flip the sign around so that it was no longer a greater than symbol, it became a less than symbol. And that is because by multiplying by negative 2, what was once positive became negative. And so since the sign switched, so does the sign in the middle have to switch. You could see this again with the division. Negative 4 is less than positive 16. We have a negative over here and a positive over here. When you divide both sides by a negative number, we have to flip our inequality sign, because look what happens. Negative 4 divided by negative 4, same signs, you get a positive answer. Negative changed to positive. And over here, a positive 16 divided by negative 4, different signs mean a negative answer. So what was positive became negative. So we know that negatives are smaller than positives. And that's why negative 4 is less than positive 16. And when those signs switched, positive to negative on the right and negative to positive on the left, now the positive's on the left, so it's got to be bigger than the negative that is on the right. When you multiply or divide on both sides of an inequality by a negative sign, then your signs are going to change, plus your inequality sign needs to be flipped, needs to be reversed. So let's take a look at some additional examples. It says negative 2g is less than 10. We can see that we are multiplying g by negative 2. The opposite of multiplying g by negative 2 is to divide by negative 2 on both sides. Okay, so this was a negative number. This was a positive number. Let's see what happens. Negative 2 and negative 2 will divide and equal positive 1. So our variable, instead of having a negative coefficient, now has a positive coefficient. Positive 10 divided by negative 2 equals negative 5, because different signs, negative answer in division. Because the positive changed to a negative here on the right, and the negative changed to a positive here on the left, our inequality wouldn't be true if we kept the sign the same. So we are going to flip the sign around, and it's going to be g is greater than negative 5. And like before, we need to graph it. Putting negative 5 in the middle, one number smaller, negative 4 to the right, and one number bigger, negative 4 to the right, and one number smaller, negative 6 to the left. Remember, as we go right, we're getting closer to 0, so you need to count down to 0 with the negatives. Because there is no equal bar on our sign, we're going to put an open circle on negative 5. And since G is big, our arrow is going to go to the right. Take a look at example number 4. X divided by negative 3 is less than or equal to 4. Since X is being divided by negative 3, it is considered to have a negative coefficient. So we are going to multiply by negative 3 on both sides to get rid of dividing by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1x. So negative becomes positive. Over here, our 4 was positive, and when we multiply it by negative 3, we get negative 12. So positive becomes negative. That means our inequality sign is going to have to flip so that it is now x is greater than or equal to negative 12. Our number line, we're going to put negative 12 in the middle. And as we get closer to 0, that would be negative 11 on the right, and further away from 0, negative 13 on the left. Because there is an equal bar on our sign, we are going to fill in our circle. And since x is big, our arrow is going to go to the right. You will see that there's only one letter problem on these negatives. Well, I don't think that's enough. And I don't know that looking at only 2 examples is enough. So I have added some additional problems here on the next slide. So you can see here on this slide that I have 8 additional problems. They're numbered a little weird. That's fine. If you want to, you can call them D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K. So let's go to example number 5. It says Ling earns $8 per hour working at the zoo. Write and solve an inequality that can be used to find how many hours she must work in a week to earn at least $120. Interpret the solution. Okay, so let's take a look and see if we can find what it is we're trying to find. It says find how many hours she must work in a week to earn at least $120. So we're looking for the number of hours in a week she must work. So we can let our variable stand for that. And our variable, in this case, probably should be something like H for hours. So H equals the number of hours to work. Okay, next thing we need to do is find what our total is. Well, it says she earns $8 per hour. I don't think that that's my total. And then it says she wants to earn at least $120. At least $120. That to me sounds like what she wants to make. So I think that becomes our total. So 120 is our total. Now, like with the inequalities we were writing yesterday, we need to ask ourselves, is that the least or is that the most? Is this the biggest number she wants to earn, or is this the least amount of money she wants to earn? And in the words, it actually says at least $120. So think about it. If you were working, are you trying to get as little money as possible, or are you trying to get as much money as possible? Well, hopefully you're saying you're trying to get as much money as possible. So $120 would be good, but $140, that would be better. $200, that would be great. So think about it. This is the smallest amount of money that she wants to get. So therefore, the alligator is going to turn its back on the 120 because that's the smallest amount of money she wants to earn. She could earn more than that. Now, because it says at least, that means it could be equal to $120. So $120 is okay. More would be better. But we can put our equal sign underneath our greater than sign so that it could be equal to 120. Now that brings us to the $8 per hour. And we got to ask ourselves, is this a constant? Is this a one-time thing? She's going to earn $8 for working at the zoo and only $8 for working at the zoo. Well, that wouldn't make any sense. She'll never get to 120 just earning $8 once. This has got to be something that is repeated over and over again. And there's that magic word per up here, which often tells us that this is going to be a coefficient where we multiply the 8 times our variable hours. So we take our $8 per hour, multiply it times our hours, and that's going to give us the amount of money she earns. And we want that amount of money to be bigger or equal to $120. Now we need to solve it. The opposite of multiplying by 8 is to divide by 8 on both sides. 8 divided by 8 equals h. Notice, because we are dividing by a positive 8, what was positive remained positive. There is no change. There is no change in our sign. 120 divided by 8, a positive divided by a positive. 8 goes into 12 once with 4 left over. 8 goes into 40 5 times with nothing left over. Notice this was positive and it remained positive. There is no change. And since there is no change, our sign is not going to flip. It will remain exactly what it was. So h is greater than or equal to 15. And it's 15 what? It's 15 hours. Remember, the h stands for hours. So we can say that Ling must work at least 15 hours. Notice I used the same language as in the problem. It's at least 15 hours.